Slug FPV. This is the Mobula6 Lite. It's really a Mobula6 standard, except that the canopy has been removed. And in place of the canopy, they put this TPU to mount the camera. And the other difference is, this is the newer motors. These are the EX 19,000 kV motors. This is the EX 0802. And you'll see that the bell is curved. Supposedly these are a little better motors than the Mobula6 original standard. These are kind of the older style motors, are flat topped. It's about 2 grams lighter. This is about 18 grams, and this one is 20 grams, so about 2 grams difference. But of course, as far as a percentage, that 2 grams is makes a difference, but we'll see. As far as the electronics, it's the same electronics. It's the Crazybee all-in-one F4 flight controller. It does have a 1 amp built-in back. This is the FR Sky SPI receiver. On this one, it does really intended for 1S batteries. Let's see, it does support smart audio. The 4-in-1 ESCs are rated at 5 amps. It is capable of supporting D-Shot 600. And again, it's pretty much the same flight controller as the original Mobula6. They call it the DiamondF4, and the target firmware is the Crazybee F4 F. So in the box, you get a couple of stickers, you get an extra frame, of course you get the Mobula6 itself, light, and then I like these carrying cases. Those are nice from HappyModel. They're easy to stack, and it protects the quad. And you can fit these in the carrying case here, even with props on, of course, because it's a whoop. And also you get a bag of parts. There's a screwdriver, some spare parts. You get a prop removal tool, and there's some extra screws there. You do get this USB battery charger. I don't expect to use this. I have a bunch of other chargers that that can charge more than one, and so this one will just be a backup charger. I did get a question on another review I did, it's like a Mobula6 HD, as to what the switch position should be set for high voltage. And I don't really talk about that in the instructions. So you need to move the switch forward to charge it to high volt towards the USB connector. And if you move it to the back, it'll be standard voltage charge. But it came with the switch moved forward, which is again high voltage. So my setup tips are, tip number 1 is to swap out the stock props for these Venom NewBeeDrone props. They are more efficient. They also are really durable props. They can take a beating. And then thirdly, you actually get a more linear response with these props. Now you could probably use a throttle curve to do the same thing, but because you get the other advantages, and this really does smooth out the throttle response, it makes it more in line. Not as good as a brushed whoop, but better. So it's a lot easier to control the throttle response, and it just flies very smooth with these props. Second tip, I was really struggling on how to route the receiver antenna. I thought about gluing it to the whoop frame, but that isn't a good option, because if you break the frame, which I actually did, then it becomes a problem, trying to get it off the glue. And even if you use tape, it's going to be more difficult, and then you might damage the antenna. So my solution was, maybe not the best for reception, but it's pretty good, is I actually routed it through the camera TPU holder. You can see there's a hole there, so you just use one of the spare holes to come up, and then I went back down. I didn't want to have it hanging up on the top here, because it gets sucked down into the props. So then I went down, you can kind of see this other hole, and then just routed it underneath, and that seemed to work out great. It's not in the way, and when you land it just kind of folds over. So for me that was the best solution. I'm still getting a good reception with this routing. So that's a tip number 2. The last tip is the stock tune is not good at all in my estimation. People might argue with me on that, but it's running 3.5.7 and I really didn't like the tune at all. So if you want to improve how this thing flies and usability, I would definitely load the Project Mockingbird EmuFlight firmware on this. I'll go ahead and link the Project Mockingbird webpage that describes how to do that, and then also the text file that you need to cut and paste into the CLI. They go through that, but there's some additional changes that you need to do, and I'll show you those CLI commands here next in the EmuFlight configurator, and that's really due to the orientation of the flight controller. So because it's rotated 90 degrees, and you're going to have to change some motor resources. So your motor assignments, the motor mapping is going to have to change. I'll go ahead and show you the CLI commands and how to do that. So quickly going through what you need to add to the Project Mockingbird CLI dump. And again, the web page shows you how to do that. You're just cutting and pasting a text file, CLI command dump in. But if you look at there's 2 additional changes you need to make. So we'll go ahead and type in diff all. And it has to do with 2 things. The first being the motor mapping. So you're going to need to, I'll go ahead and paste the CLI commands in the comments, or I should say in the description section below. And this is just changing the motor mapping. And you need that because the motor mapping changes when you have to change the orientation, like I was stating, of the flight controller. So going down to the flight controller orientation, if you go down here to the alignment, you can see that it's set to align the board yaw at 180 degrees. So you're going to need to also paste that command in. So again, what I'll do is just cut and paste those into the description section below, and you can just, after you load the Project Mockingbird CLI dump in and save that, you're just going to need to cut and paste, just do a screen scrape of the CLI commands I have posted below, and then type in save. So I mean, I can just show you real quick here. I'll just go ahead and copy that. So you just hit Control V, go ahead and hit that, and then enter that, and then go ahead and do Control C, and then Control V, and you can see that it's changing the mapping. Of course, it's already done, and then just type in save, and that's it. Who would I recommend the Mobula6 Lite for? I think if you're a serious whoop racer, I think you can get better lap times with this, and you have the skill set of Mr. Shutterbug. So if you're that type of a pilot and you want to up your game, I think this is a good candidate. If you're somebody like me that is a intermediate type pilot that's interested in setting up some gates and trying to improve your times, I think it's a good candidate for somebody like that. If you're wanting to get something that you can actually improve your whoop racing skills, and that's why I bought it. If you're a new pilot, however, I don't recommend it, because you're way better off with something like this, which is a brushed quad, and this is the response very linear, or even the Mobula6 standard. And the reason why is because they just can take a hit much better. This one is not going to be as robust. The major Achilles heel of this quad, in my mind, is the frame. I took it out and did some light whoop acro, and I just crashed it once. And this plastic is so brittle that, I mean, it's kind of shattered. You can see all the break points here. I mean, the motor mount broke, you know, the multiple frame struts broke off. I mean, this was just one crash. It looks like they went to a different plastic composite than even what's on the original Mobula6 standard, which I didn't think was a very robust frame. But it is better than the frame that comes with the Mobula6 Lite, which is interesting because it looks like the mold is identical. So I'm not sure what happened. It's almost like they went back to the same original composite plastic that they had on the original Mobula 7, and then I don't know if anybody that's had the Mobula 7 before, they upgraded it to the V2 frame, and this plastic is very robust. You can bang this around pretty good. So I'm not quite sure they went back to this other plastic material. It's just very brittle. So for me, that is a definite con, because a whoop needs to be something that is very robust. That's number one criterion for me, is that it can take a hit and a crash, because when you're flying a whoop, you're crashing all the time when you're flying indoors and outdoors. And as a new pilot, you're going to be crashing a lot, and I just wouldn't recommend this quad for a new pilot. I also wouldn't recommend this without the Project Mockingbird EmuFlight tune on it. It absolutely needs that. And I think another thing that really helps with the throttle response are these Venom props from NewBeeDrones, these bi-blade props, and I'll put a link below. So I'll go ahead and show you a quick flight in my house, and so you can kind of get a feel for how it flies. So with that, thanks for watching my channel.